Okay, so today we are going to talk about extensive intensive listening, and we are going to look at the activities that a teacher can create to teach both of these skills basically. Okay, now these are the kinds of listening, and both of them are important to give students a practice in order to improve their listening skills. Okay. All right, Huma, I told them that you're right. Okay. Okay, so basically, extensive reading happens outside the class. The teacher can recommend, but extensive reading does not take the time of the class. Similar is the case with extensive listening. So if in easier terms, we try to differentiate between extensive, intensive reading and listening, we're talking about the receptive skills. So extensive reading is basically pleasure reading. Okay, but of course, when you are reading, it improves your reading. Okay, because you're actually practicing reading. The more you read, the better reader you would become. Similar is the case with extensive listening. Now, extensive listening is more time consuming. You listen to longer dialogues, longer text maybe. So extensive listening isn't a part of the class, right? So the teacher again can recommend what to listen to in order to improve your listening skills. For instance, if I shared with you, while I was at school, our English teacher asked us to listen to the news, okay, so that we can improve our listening comprehension, right? And she recommended BBC only, to listen to BBC alone, no other news channel, okay, because BBC gave us authentic material for listening, okay, and it was extensive listening for the reason that she would not make any arrangements in the classroom, and we did not have time for this activity since were we had to complete the syllabus and the course, the design course. So and our English teacher wanted us to work on our skills, so she would give us some assignment other than what we were doing in the classrooms. Okay, so she would ask us to listen to those news and put them down, put our understanding down on news register she asked us to make. So this is whether you're listening inside the classroom or listening outside the classroom, as far as extensive listening is concerned. So you can watch movies. Okay, the teacher can recommend you movies. The teacher can recommend you songs. Okay, the teacher can recommend you plays or the dramas in English. All of these would come in extensive listening, right? So these can be given as homework, as assignment, and then any activity that would be related to it can be brought to the classrooms, or students can be assessed with that. Okay. As far as intensive reading or listening is concerned, that happens in the classrooms, right? But and the teacher makes arrangement. If it's intensive reading in the classroom, the teacher would make arrangement of some recorders through which the students are able to listen to the recordings. So what we are going to develop basically are the activities related to intensive reading. Okay, because intensive reading or intensive listening, right now we are going to do with activities related to extensive listening. So since intensive listening is a part of classroom, so as teachers we will look at some of the activities of intensive listening. Okay. Now, what is important to remember here is that both extensive and intensive listening, both kinds of listening are important because both of these provide opportunities to hear voices, listen to people, other than the teacher. Okay, because all listening activities cannot be covered by the teacher. It's not that you only need to learn to understand your teacher, or you only need to practice through the voice and talk of your teacher. Therefore, both extensive listening, of course, in extensive listening, you would not be listening to the teacher outside the classrooms, as well as in activities related to intensive listening, when you would bring something shorter for teaching purposes, for teaching of listening skills to the classroom, so it wouldn't be the teacher alone. Okay, so both of them work in a good combination. The teacher should be assigning a task for extensive listening that the learner should be doing at home, and she should be able to design activities for intensive learning also. Okay, so any kind of material can be used for intensive learning. Okay, it can be authentic material, it can be inauthentic or non-authentic material, and we have already differentiated between the two. Those who have missed the class on authentic and inauthentic material, please refer to my lectures. I hope I will be uploading the previous lectures soon. Okay, so let's talk about the extensive listening. Now, extensive listening, they help the students to acquire vocabulary. Okay, because you must have seen the students who are in a habit of pleasure reading, they always are better writers, because they are able to acquire more vocabulary, and they are able to acquire the correct forms of grammar. Okay, and similar is the case, of course, with extensive listening also. Okay, and here the role of the teacher is to encourage the students and help them to choose for themselves what they would listen to for pleasure, okay, and for general language improvement, right? So extensive listening, I told you, takes place outside the classrooms. It can be at home, even while the students are traveling in the car. It can be in their personal mobile cell phone stereos also, as they travel from one place to another, right? They can practice listening at any time outside the classroom while doing anything, okay? Because yeah, you know, it's easier for them to have their headphones and keep on listening, because they at least are exposed to the language, right? What can be the sources for extensive reading? Extensive reading and listening, I've already told you that those can be movies. You know, you can recommend them movies, you can recommend them songs, you can recommend them dramas, okay? And these can be, you know, listening activities can be done through videotapes also, and audio ones as well. Okay, so see, if you suggest them to watch a movie, they are looking at the movie or video also, and they are listening to the dialogues. If you suggest them to listen to a song, it can be done through audio listening also. So both of these, video and audio, can give students practice in right now we are talking about the extensive listening. Okay, so there can be, you know, a lot of methods and techniques for extensive listening. You can even keep a collection in the library and keep on giving it to the students to take them home and listen to that. Okay, because I told you that inside the classroom we might not have so much time for extensive listening or even extensive reading. So what you need to do is, as teachers, you need to encourage them. Okay, and you just do not leave them after suggesting it. You should come with some activity in the classrooms that should tell you whether your students have come um, with the task done. Like, you can discuss the movies in the classroom if you have asked, or if you've suggested your students some kind of, um, some kind of English play or English movie or something like that. So you can always discuss, find out if the students have done the task. So this would motivate them, this would encourage them. And the one thing that we have been repeating time and again, that your selection should match their level. Okay, because we already have studied Russian comprehensible input. And what happens if, instead of I+1, it's I+2, that can be demoralizing. Okay, that can be demotivating for the students, because students will not be able to comprehend it. Okay, so this is why it is important to know the level, skill level of your students before suggesting them anything like extensive reading and extensive listening, for that matter, right? Um, Now, what you can do in order to encourage extensive reading or extensive listening, you can ask the students to perform certain tasks. They can bring their reflections, recordings of responses to the classrooms. Okay. They can even maintain, as I told you, we used to maintain a personal journal of the news, right? And you can give any related activity to them once you suggest or recommend something for them for extensive listening. Okay. Now let's come to intensive listening, which is the major part of teaching listening skills. Basically, we teach our students listening skills through, intensive listening. So in intensive listening, the teachers or the classroom should have a certain paraphernalia. We need to have recorded material. It can be on the disk also, in the USBs too, whatever technology is supported by a particular class. Okay, because classes come with, um, different different facilities, I would say, right? So you need to make these arrangements and see if these facilities can be made available to the classes. For instance, if you want to show a live video to the students on, for instance, on YouTube, you need to have a net facility in your classrooms. Okay, you need to have a projector facility in the classroom. Okay, and if you're making a student listen to something, like we practiced listening skills in the classroom, um, the teacher used to bring a recorder. The class was not fitted with one, but she would bring a recorder. Right now we have other gadgets also. You can have your Bluetooth devices. You're all the time, the teachers are with their cell phones and laptops. So, with technology, uh, you can give your students the practice in intensive listening. Okay, so there are some advantages, there are some disadvantages of intensive listening also. Not exactly the disadvantages, but there are certain problems that the teacher needs to overcome while she is giving the students a listening practice. Okay. Now, if we come to the advantages before going to the disadvantages, I've told you that the advantage of intensive listening is you're listening to many people, many characters other than your teacher in the classrooms. Okay, so it gives your students, if you are teachers, it gives your students a lot of opportunity to meet a range of different characters, um, sometimes real people also, because as we go further in the lecture, we would come to know that interviewing or listening to interviews is one of the activity that you can conduct for teaching through intensive listening. Okay, so the advantage is, they get to listen to real people as they talk, right? So they they have an exposure to wide variety of situations within the classroom. So they can notice what people say in a particular situation. Okay, how do people express their anger? How do people express their excitement? Okay, their happiness, all of these, right? So they need to learn through the real use of language. Okay, and now I told you that these movies and these plays are also counted in the authentic material. Okay, so when you are even making them watch a fictional movie, but the characters are actually talking to one another, so they get to know conversation in different situation, um, even if it's fictional, that's fine, but they're exposed to the real use of language. Now, as I told you that, right now, if you talk about these days, things are really portable. Okay, and these are available also. Every teacher is with a cell phone. Okay, what you need to bring sometimes is the speakers, Bluetooth speakers. We have a variety of speakers that are available to us. Some are the Wi-Fi speakers also. So on campus we have availability of the internet all the time. Okay, at least teachers have this availability of internet, and these Wi-Fi's are available inside the classroom. So these activities can be conducted with much ease these days as compared to previous times when the teacher had to arrange a tape recorder or a VCR and to give students a practice in listening skills. What may go wrong as far as our context is concerned, um, since our classes are large classes, okay, the classroom is big and the number of students are more, so there can be caustics problem. Okay, some of the students who are sitting at the back might not be able to hear what is played in the classroom. So when the number of students are more who are to be given listening skills, and if your room is bigger, then it becomes difficult to make sure that everyone is listening. Okay, and the played tape is available or audible to everyone, people, especially people sitting at the back of the large classrooms. Okay, so you know um, you can solve the problem by dividing the class into two or doing something with the strength of the class. I don't know how much possible it is in our scenario, but this problem can be overcome if the students are less, if the classrooms are small, and the students are made to sit in a circle. Okay, only then you can make sure that everyone is listening, right? Despite these disadvantage also, because there are advantages too of this intensive listening. So we still give students a practice through the recorded material. Okay, so for intensive listening, I told you that we can make use of videotapes as well as audio tapes. But that really depends on how much supportive is the institute where you're teaching, or how much you can be innovative with these techniques. How do you arrange this? Okay. Now, what are other some of the methods of this intensive reading, other than bringing in a tape recorder or other gadgets, or making the Wi-Fi available? What we can do in larger classrooms? Okay, some of the activities we can do without the tape recorders even, but then it is for the teacher to conduct those activities. Reading aloud is one of them. Okay, so a teacher can read to the students aloud, or the teacher can give opportunity to different students to read the text aloud in the class. Now, this activity, besides giving students a practice in reading, it also gives students a practice in listening. If the input is correctly provided to them, so the same input can be used for teaching both the receptive skills, right? And this reading aloud usually is an enjoyable activity, um, and the teacher can do that for the students, and students can do that for themselves also, right? um, Through this, because reading aloud is usually reading a literary text or some kind of a written text, so this allows them to hear a clear spoken version of the written text. Okay, and the students usually enjoy this reading aloud activity. It's really, again, up to the teacher to select the reading of the text, or to select the dialogues that can be read aloud and give students a listening practice. Other than that, there can be an activity of storytelling. Okay, teachers can, ideally place to tell stories, which in turn provide excellent listening to the students. We are looking at the activities, when sometimes playing recording is not available in the classroom some days. But of course, if your classrooms are language teaching classrooms, and if you are required to teach all the skills to the students, then of course you have to um, equip your class with these facilities. The activities that I'm telling you, these can be done only by the teacher, okay, and without any technical support. For instance, reading aloud, or for instance, telling students a story, okay, and telling a story is also enjoyable, and this would give a student a chance to listen to um, some material, listening material. At any stage, the students can be asked to predict what would happen in the story next, and to describe people in the story, or to give their own opinions and comments. Okay, so this would check their listening comprehension as well, whether they are able to understand the story, because if they participate, once the story is told to them, or they ask questions in the middle when the story is being told to them, that means they are getting the story, and uh, they are comprehending what they are listening. Okay, right? So the third activity The third activity of intensive listening can be interviews. Okay. Now, for interviews, we can have live interviews, right? Um, or you can, invite your friends, other teachers, your colleagues, anyone from outside the class for interviews. Okay. Or you can have an option to um, give or take interviews from the students, or they can work in groups also. Okay. So these are called as live interviews. Okay. Where the students can formulate their own question, right? And they can ask their friends to answer them. Okay. Other than that, you can arrange the visits of other people, okay, who are stranger to the students. Okay. Preferably they can be your colleagues who are not the students' teachers, so that they can have an understanding when you discuss with them the level of these students, the level of your students, and what kind of interview you expect the stranger to give to the students. So if you bring in a stranger to one of your classes and ask the students to interview him, and you have already told the students, you have addressed the students, you have addressed or you have told the stranger who is invited for a live interview about the level of the students, and what he is expected to say in the interview. So this can be another interesting activity by the title of live interviews. Okay. And then we can have another activity uh, related to intensive listening, and those can be simple conversations. Okay. If you can, request one of your colleagues or persuade a colleague to come to your class and converse with the students, okay, about any subject, like giving a talk to the student. So what would happen that they are going to again listen to another voice other than the teacher. Okay. And um, again, you have to tell this invited person about the level of the student, and he would prepare the talk accordingly. So he can take up any interesting topic that may interest the students. Okay. Um, for instance, problems of two mediums of education in Pakistan that might interest the students, problems in online teaching learning. Okay, he can come, he can speak about that topic. So it's a kind of a conversation. At the end of the talk, the students would be asking questions, but why you have invited this person, a colleague or a friend, for conversing with the student is to talk about a particular topic according to the level of the students, in order to give them listening practice. And you need to check the colleague should have the right kind of pronunciation that you want your student to listen to. Okay. Okay, just wait for a minute. Okay. So these are some of the activities that you can, make them a part of your assignment also, and you can make them a part of your, you can prepare them for your paper also. So again, I repeat that for extensive reading is just, suggesting and recommending students something to listen to according to their level. Okay. That is why while I have asked you to do your assignment, you need to mention the level of the students that you are teaching. Okay, because at every level, beginners, intermediate, advanced, the activities would vary. You cannot go with similar activities um, for all the students. Okay, right. So extensive reading is about suggesting the students to listen or to read. And when it comes to intensive listening, we need to create activities for them. I have told you about some of these activities, but again, I'm just telling you about the activities, but the material is needed to be chosen by the teacher. Okay. Now, reading aloud is one activity, but what they are going to read aloud in the class uh, really depends on the skill and experience of the teacher. Okay, because this teacher is going to read it aloud to them. Okay, and then storytelling. What kind of story? Okay, uh, what level of language would be the part of the story. Then for the interviews, you can conduct interviews from the students. Students can conduct interviews amongst themselves also, and you can call someone out from outside the classroom for this interview purpose. Okay, students can take his interview. Other than that, you can request one of your colleagues who happens to be a language teacher or who's your class fellow somewhere, so, or who is teaching in the similar language center, maybe, where you are trying to teach or give practice of listening to your students. So you can invite them for a talk, to give a talk to the students. Okay, so this would also give them um, listening practice in intensive listening. Okay. Now, um, for all these activities of listening, we need to be active in creating students' engagement through the way we set up the task. That is why I have given you to create the task for your assignment. Because, you know, in language teaching methodologies, teacher has a very significant role because she is the one who create these activities. If the activities are created correctly um, at the right level, only then the teaching would be successful, teaching and learning both. So, you know, as teachers, you need to build up students' confidence by helping them listen better rather than, you know, by testing their listening abilities. Okay. Now, if I ask you, for instance, you know, when you are giving them live practice of listening, that's different. But when you have arranged a recording for them to be played in the classroom, how many times should that recording be played? What do you think? What is your idea as language teachers? Should you replay the recording for your students? Get to your chat to answer this question. Okay, Adina, I hope it's not a bit going on. Um, just telling me number of times. Why 3 times? What's the reason you said 3 times? Any reason? It should be twice because pronunciation is difficult to understand. Okay. Right. Okay, Adina is sharing her own experience as well. Right, Adina? Can we refer to task 1 and task 2 skills? Okay, if I say, okay, Minal. Now, if I say that since you are preparing your student for a real life communication, okay, so in real life communication, do you get a chance to listen to twice in conversation? If you are in conversation with someone, do you get the chance to listen to those people twice? Then, okay, exercise sometimes, of course, sometimes you ask them, could you repeat? Could you, come again? So there are terms that we use to ask someone to listen, to say what they have said again. Sorry, I could not get you. But this is not usually happening, and this is not very much, you know, encouraged. Okay. So what you are trying to teach your student is to enable them to listen just once. Okay. So depending on the level, for instance, if you are teaching a class at beginner's level and you are giving them listening practice, then you may play the tape um, twice or thrice, but when you have given them enough practice and they are at the intermediate level or beyond that intermediate level, you should try not to play, um, especially when you are giving them listening practice, not to play the audio or the video twice. Okay. They should given such ample practice with the language that they are able to comprehend the language with only one listening. Okay, so that's the recommended thing. That's the ideal situation, that you need not repeat the audio tapes, but your students understand that. But and that's I told you that that's the ideal situation, but in real situation that might not be the case. Okay, so now um, for that, the teacher needs to go with a lesson plan, right? And she should go with a certain sequence. Okay, of course, from easier to difficult, from short conversations to the longer conversations, from exposing them to shorter text to longer and to the longest text. Again, that also really depends on the teacher. Okay, so I guess okay, other than that, I told you that the role of the teacher in intensive listening is huge. I would just quickly tell you the roles of the teacher in intensive listening, and then we would go to the actual some of the actual activities, as for an example. Okay, that can be given to the students. Right? Okay. Now, for today, covering the last topic is the role of the teacher in intensive listening. She is the organizer. Okay. She gives clear instruction. She selects things for listening. She explains that also. Then she's a machine operator. If you know there are technological issues in the classrooms with the gadgets, she's going to deal with those. So she's the IT operator or the machine operator in the classrooms. Other than that, during intensive listening activities, um, she is the feedback organizer also. When the student complete a task, they are given a feedback, okay, and she answers the students' questions. If there are some difficulties, it is her responsibility to keep the students encouraged, keep them motivated, and keep giving them feedback also, right? Other than that, she's a prompter also. When students have listened to a tape or disc for comprehension purpose, um, she can, if she feels the need to, she can play it again for them, right? And sometimes she can offer them a script or dictations, or she can give them clues to what they are listening to. She can give them keywords also. She can practice lead-in exercises or brainstorming exercises before giving them or letting them listen to the actual material in the classroom. So she has a very important role uh, during these intensive listening activities. She's the organizer, she's the IT manager, machine operator. She arranges the feedback also, and then she's the prompter as well, right? So tomorrow we are going to look at some of the lessons, actual lessons happening in the classrooms. Okay, we'll see what kind of text some of the teachers have selected. We are going to look at some of the examples as well. And then perhaps we would be done with teaching of listening skills by tomorrow. And then we can move to some other skill as well. Right, so that's all from here. Stop the recording here.